Over the past 5 years, my wife and I have come up with some spending habits that allowed us to save something like $370,000. So I figured it'd be cool to share the 11 best tips that I have that helped us get there. So the first one I call the liquid law, which just means that if I'm going out to eat anywhere, I do not spend any money on liquids whatsoever. And I know that that sounds a little bit extreme, but for me, I always bring around this water bottle here, and it's full of filtered water that we fill up at our house. That to me is much more enjoyable than any type of caffeinated, color dyed, sugary drink that I could buy and spend money on. So if I'm gonna go to a restaurant, I wanna spend money on the thing that I enjoy the most, which is food, right? My extra money will be spent on food, not on liquids. That has helped me save a tremendous amount of money over time. And I don't drink, I never have, and I probably never will, because that's just spending money on something that's really not healthy for you, and I don't think it's good at all. So there you go. Number 2 is the Scrappy Method. Now, this just means that you don't always have to throw money at a problem in order to solve it. This is something that we used to do for quite a while because we got a little bit spoiled with having 2 incomes and no kids. But since we've had a kid and we might move to 1 income pretty soon here, we've had to get a little bit more resourceful with what we're spending our money on. So for instance, we had our washer break. This thing started pausing on us all the time and it stopped spinning and I couldn't figure out what was happening. And so I called the only person that I know who knows how to fix this stuff, which is my dad. He's owned an appliance business or appliance repair business his whole life pretty much. He came over, troubleshooted it real quick, and then we found this little guy for like 27 bucks. I'm a data analyst, so I use ChatGPT to help us troubleshoot what the problem was. But basically, I combined my knowledge with where to get some information with his knowledge and experience. And then we found this thing for a few bucks, and then we were able to fix a dryer that would otherwise cost hundreds of dollars to replace or have somebody come out and repair it. And so when you have constraints and you're forced to get scrappy, I think it can really help you save a few dollars if you really need to. All right, the next one is the 10K rule. Now, this applies to cars and used cars specifically. I've never bought a new car in my life. I've only paid for used cars. And basically the rule says for every $1,000 I spend, I want to get at least 10,000 miles out of a car. So if I spend 10 grand on a car, I want 100,000 miles to be able to put on it. For this Prius here, we have a 2012 Toyota Prius. This thing cost us $7,000 and it has about 130,000 miles on it. If you've ever driven a Toyota, you know that they go well beyond 200,000 miles, and I very much expect this thing to be no different than the others. So this was a really good purchase for us because it passes my 10K rule. I expect to get at least 70,000 miles on this thing. I bet it's gonna go to 230, even 240,000 miles, which means I'm gonna get more than my money's worth according to the 10K rule. And that's just something that I've always done. I'm sure at some point in the future, when I'm super rich, I'll get a little bit of a nicer car. But for now, this rule has served me well in saving up a lot of money. All right, it's getting way too hot in here. I'm getting out. Way too close. Okay, the next one is the promo principle. Now, this is something that we do when we want to take advantage of a really good deal while also not getting caught in the marketing cycle that companies try to get you in. For example, these shorts right here, these are from Fabletics. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, they ran some promotions where they were doing something like 2 for $24 shorts. So we wanted to take advantage of this because we love working out, we love athletic clothes. This is Lululemon, which is kind of a sissy company, but whatever, it's comfortable. We wanted to take advantage of Fabletics and see what they had to offer for $24, but they get really tricky with the membership and signing up and how you cancel it. And so we went to the store, we bought 2 pairs of clothing each for $24, so $48 for both of us. And then on the way home, we had to scour their website, find the email support system, email them, and then they said that you had to call somebody too. And so it was like a 2 or 3 step process on even just canceling and getting out of this thing, but we were able to do it. And we got the benefit of the promotion while not getting stuck in their loyalty program, which you just end up spending more money there anyways. So that is the promo principle. Another one is the loyalty law. Now, everybody knows that rewards are a lot of fun and it's fun to swipe a card and get points. and then feel like you're getting free stuff from restaurants, that's great. That's awesome. But the way that we use them is that we will only use the rewards when we were already gonna go to that restaurant. For example, Chick-fil-A. We eat there probably more than any other restaurant, period, not just fast food, but restaurant in general. But every time that the app sends us a reward, we don't go there immediately, right? That's kind of the idea, is they send you a free dessert and then you rush down there to get it and you think, well, I already drove this far, I might as well buy a whole meal to get the most out of it, right? To make the trip worth it. And that's kind of the whole point of it. And so because we're aware of that, we try not to fall for this little trick. So instead, when we do have enough rewards, we just end up choosing that restaurant when we were gonna go eat out anyway. And so it's kind of a win-win, right? Because we opt in to go to that restaurant in the first place, but we're also not fully falling for the gimmick that is, a tiny free item to trick you into buying more stuff when you're there. I think you get the point. Anyway, it's way too crammed in here. The curiosity effect. Now, Charlie Munger, if you don't know, one of the best investors to ever live, one of his greatest impacts on me is talking about how you should always be learning. And this is a lesson that I've taken to heart over the past, 5 to 8 years-ish. Really most of my 20s, and it's had a tremendous impact. It's distracted me in some ways because I have shiny object syndrome, and my wife will tell you that I get interested in everything and then I kind of don't take action on stuff, but that's a separate problem. Mainly the thing that this has helped me with financially is that I learned how important learning is. So for example, when I was a junior data analyst, I knew that I wanted to keep learning in my field to get better at it and to obviously get paid more. So I went and got my master's degree in data analytics, and I did that in 2020 through 2022. And then a little bit after that, a couple months later, I was able to get a promotion to a senior data analyst, and I got like a $21,000 raise, which is insane. And it pretty much paid for my master's degree in a single year. And so I have this beautiful man to thank for that. RIP Charlie, he's the GOAT. Always be curious. Also, check out this janky setup I have going on here. Look at this light. It's a panel, but to diffuse it, I have a busted up piece of paper. Subscribe. The next one is the Ration Rule. So, I don't know how you do it, but we buy groceries pretty much once a week, and it really depends on where we're going to get it from. Mainly, it's 2 places, Target and Costco, and they kind of alternate weeks depending on what we need. We get most of our stuff in bulk at Costco that lasts a couple weeks, and then we get kind of the small stuff like maybe veggies, fruit, and some milk at Target because it's cheaper. If we were to buy the big bulk stuff at Costco, it would just go bad before we ended up using it all. So the Ration Rule basically says that if we run out of something, we have to wait until we're actually going to go to the grocery store on a scheduled day, usually the weekends, before we go refill that thing. For instance, a gigantic bag of Doritos from Costco. This thing lasted me almost a full month, but I'm not gonna go get another one in a few days when I finish that just because I run out. I'm gonna wait until I think it's next Friday, which is like 8 days from now, to buy another one. I could go get it and refill it as soon as it's gone, but I would rather ration and use the food that we do have in order to be resourceful, save money, not be as wasteful, and eat different stuff. And so this helps me with not only my nutrition and my diet, but also my budget. I'll go back now. The next one is something I call the delay effect, which basically says that I don't buy something as soon as I see it or as soon as I want it. It's effectively avoiding impulse spending, which is a huge problem. A lot of people have this, and you may not recognize it as a problem. I think it depends on your view, but it's really helped me save a ton of money because the most exciting time that we have when we are shopping for stuff is right at the beginning, right? The first time we see a new pair of clothes or a brand new pair of headphones, it's always a lot of fun. And then we get used to it, and then over time, it's not as cool anymore. The most memorable time that I used this effect was with these headphones right here. These are Sony XM5 1000. I don't know, they have a weird name, but they were $400, right? They're incredibly lightweight, they're super comfortable, and the noise canceling is just insane. I compared these to Apple's headphones, and overall these are way more comfortable, and you can EQ and adjust the sound in them. Either way, my point is that they're very, very expensive. It's one of the biggest and best purchases that I've ever made, but I also did it using the delay effect. I waited and I did some more research, and I made sure that this was the right purchase because it was a lot of money, especially when I bought them in 2020. We didn't really have much money then, and that effect has served me very, very well over the years. And these headphones are a really great reminder because I use them all the time, and I'm so glad that I waited and I did my research before spending on them. All right, the next one you may have heard of, it's the Pareto Principle or the Pareto Principle, which basically says that 20% of your inputs account for 80% of your outputs. In other words, getting the most bang for your buck. And in terms of finances, the thing that has probably been the Pareto Principle for me is simply changing my mindset from spending on bills and then saving and investing what's left over and flipping that on its head. And so my priority when I first get paid is to invest and then save and then spend on all my bills and other expenses and things that I want to buy. Now, ultimately, this can look the same, right? Because I'm not getting paid any more or any less just because I change how I order things. But what it does is it helps me prioritize building wealth for myself and paying me first rather than giving my money to other businesses and other people so that I'm just making them rich instead of me rich over time. And so a very practical way that I do this is I set up recurring transfers and investments straight from my paycheck so I never even see that money hit my checking account. So I think something like 20% of my money goes to my 401k. I max out my Roth IRA every single month so I never touch that money. And then another 10 or 20% goes right to my high yield savings account so that grows over time and it's separate from my checking account. So even when I get bonus checks or raises or promotions, I never really see or feel the benefit of it because all of that money goes into building wealth for me instead of giving it to me where I can just go spend it on stuff that I really don't need. And as you can see from this chart right here, I've done it for 5 years and it has definitely paid off. The next one is what I call the starter trap, and it's that I will not spend money on appetizers unless we're with a big group of friends and everybody wants to share some, or it's for some type of special occasion. Really, I think, especially in the US, restaurants give us more food than we could possibly need in a single meal, and what we end up doing is taking a lot home to be leftovers, and it's never even as good as leftovers. And so it doesn't really make sense to me to spend money on an appetizer that's 1, overpriced, and 2, not even needed to fill you up so that you spend on an even bigger meal right after that and then bring home leftovers that end up sucking. It just feels like a waste of money most of the time. Really, the only time we do it is when it's going to be a lot of fun and when it's with other people. And this is with me being the biggest fan of going out to eat. It's probably my favorite thing to spend money on in the whole world. Again, when I'm really rich, I might buy, like I said, a nicer car, and then I'm just gonna go out to eat all the time because it's the best thing in the world. But for now, no spending on appetizers. It's really just not worth it. All right, I'm not walking further for this transition. The last one is the assertive bias, and basically it's the rule of if you don't ask, the answer is already no. Now, one of the greatest lessons I've learned in my life is from SpongeBob.
Be assertive!
It's being assertive. And I want to be very clear. Being assertive is different from being aggressive. One is rooted in confidence while the other is rooted in arrogance. And so I don't ever want to be aggressive and arrogant. I would rather be very confident and assertive with what I'm doing because it really yields the best results. Now, remember how I said I got a promotion a couple years ago to senior data analyst? That was from being assertive. I learned and I got my master's degree, but I also asked my managers over and over again for a year leading up to my graduation, hey, you're gonna promote me, right? Hey, I'm gonna get senior, right? And so I always bugged them. Pretty much every one-on-one, we had a meeting. I brought it up in a respectful way. I wasn't really bugging them, but I was never afraid to ask for the thing that I wanted. And I think that's the reason that I was able to get promotions. And I'm currently doing the same thing in order to get to principal data analyst, which is going to be another huge promotion. So just remember, if you never ask, the answer is no anyways. You really have nothing to lose. So those are the 11 rules that I've set for myself that have helped us save and invest a lot of money over the years. Let me know if you do any of these or if there are other rules that you've seen that helped you a lot. I would love to hear from you guys as well. Otherwise, check out this video next to see my net worth as of just a couple weeks ago, and I'll see you there. Peace.